Big question. First, thank you for calling me Mr. Hamburger. I don't get that a whole lot. Uh, so I think, how did I get to where I am today? I think it was a long journey. I studied English at the University of Michigan because I didn't really know what else to study. I'd always loved writing, telling stories, and it just seemed like a natural fit for what I could do until I figured out what I wanted to do. And during that time, I was interning at Merrill Lynch, assisting a financial advisor. And, I actually really was interested in like markets, stocks, investing during that time, but it didn't feel like it was my calling or my passion. But I didn't really know what else to do. And it seemed like it would be a good job that would help me, have a secure source of income and, a pretty predictable career path. And then when I was at Michigan, I discovered this program called the New England Literature Project, and a lot of English majors had gone in the past. And essentially, it's a program where you go to Maine and live in log cabins for 7 weeks, like a children's summer camp that you just take over. 40 kids, 13 teachers. So the teacher to student ratio was pretty unbelievable. And during that time, we had no electricity, no phones, no computers, just like, I think the only electricity we had was for like lighting in the main mess hall. And you just really learn to like live off the land. And every day we would do classes, read, the transcendentalist writers like Thoreau and Emerson. And really a lot of that writing is about listening to yourself and listening to your environment and trusting yourself, being self-reliant. And I think we were judged not on any papers, but on our journals and our self-discovery, which really like changed my entire life. And I got back from that and I'm like, I'm not going to be a financial advisor. Um, I'm lucky enough the way that I was raised to have a lot of opportunities. I feel very, very privileged and lucky to have those opportunities to take risks, which not everybody has. And I got back and I was like, I like technology more than anything. I've been reading tech blogs my whole life, like Engadget and Gizmodo and even the Wall Street Journal's tech journalist. And I was like, I'm just going to start a tech blog at Michigan. And so I think probably the biggest experience that's shaped my career path is the experience of reaching out to people and asking them questions, not just for help, but asking them questions. And you never know who you're going to meet. And what I did was I emailed the technology editor at the Wall Street Journal, and I was like, "How did you do this?" And I wrote him a really sincere email about what I appreciated about his work, which I think is always important when you cold email someone, and keeping it short, not asking for anything right off the bat. And he responded immediately. And, he got on the phone with me a week later. I was so nervous. The call actually didn't go that well. I think my questions were a little too, I don't know, too formulated. He was like, "Are you doing this for the school paper? Like, what is this?" And I think that was my first clue that maybe I could be a reporter. So I've always loved asking questions and I've always been curious. And so I took some of his advice and just started writing. I reached out to a women's leadership magazine in Michigan called Lead. And I was like, maybe I can help you expand your male audience. And they let me start writing tech stuff. And really today, a lot of it is just showing your work. And I applied to Business Insider and to Gizmodo in New York for tech writing. And all I needed was just to show them my work. And I'm like, look, I can do what you're doing every day. And I got an internship. And really, my journey within reporting, I was at Business Insider for a year. Then, as I was saying on theme, I reached out to the founder of The Verge, who was one of my idols. And I was at the Verge launch party and I approached him personally. And I was like, "I love everything you're doing. Let me know if I can be a part of it." And he ended up reaching out to me a month later. And I worked at The Verge for a few years. And long story short, that's how I got to meet Evan, the CEO of Snapchat, who, another big theme for me is just keep gravitating towards the people who seem the smartest and the nicest and the most passionate and thoughtful. And Evan, was the most thoughtful founder I'd ever interviewed. And I'm like, I want to work with this guy. And I eventually told him I was thinking of getting out of reporting, and he invited me to join. So I think that's kind of the story of how I got to Snapchat. And, here I've worn a lot of hats, from copywriting to more recently running the strategy team, which is trying to, ironically similar to reporting, hear a whole story, find the most interesting part, and then share it with your audience in a really compelling way. And so a lot of it still comes back to writing, but more importantly, the ideas at the center of it all. So sorry for the long-winded answer. It's taken a lot of twists and turns, but I think, the way that I've been able to make it this far, I think, is just by continuing to talk to as many people as I can and just keep gravitating towards the people and things I like the most, which I know not everybody has the ability to do. Given the types of jobs you have the choice to take. But I think I've been really lucky in that regard.